Welcome back to 3-6 critical points and extrema. Okay, so we're going to talk about more graphs. So a critical point on a graph is located where a change occurs on the graph. So for example, we go from increasing to decreasing. That right there would be a maximum. We go from decreasing to increasing. This right here would be a minimum. Okay. And this point right here is called a point of inflection. The slope at that point is undefined because the slope is technically would be vertical at that point. Okay, but that is also a change. All right. Some other things about graphs is that we can have an absolute minimum or a min. Okay. And the absolute one is going to be the least value that the function is over the domain. So on this picture here, our absolute minimum would be down here. So right here, it's the very smallest point on the whole graph. And then the absolute maximum, or the max, is the greatest value of the function. So that would be right here, the greatest value our function holds. We can also have a relative extrema. So I'll let you see this graph right here, relative extrema. A relative max is the greatest value on some interval. Okay, so this is a relative max. It might not be the highest point, but it is the highest point in that area. This is also a relative max. A relative min is the least y value on some interval. So we have a relative min. On this interval, it is the smallest point, and the same with this one. We'll also know that this one, we could also call this one the absolute min, and that would be the best answer for this spot. This one looks like it's probably the absolute max, because it's the most max, but actually I take that all back. Okay, if you notice, this is going to go up forever, so this one is not going to have an absolute max. Whoops, this is just going to be a relative because this is going to be the max, and this, because it's going down forever. All right, so there we go, bunch of relatives. All right, locate the extrema and classify them. So let's take a look at this graph. We have an extrema here. We have one here. We have one here. Okay. Let's locate them by giving them our points. So 1, 2, 3. So -3, down 1. This is going to be a relative minimum. I'm fine if you just put min and max. All right, this one over here is at 1, 1, 2, 3, 1, 3. Okay, this one is also going to be a I would say this one's is going to be a relative max. I will say though, if you get that one wrong, hey, my bad, hey, then it would be an absolute, because it is the highest max that we can see, but these are going to go up forever, so I have to check that one for you. All right, and then this down here, this is 1, 2, 3, 4, -3, so I probably shouldn't have labeled this one yet, although we could visually see it, but this one goes down farther, so this is for surely the absolute minimum. All right, we are going to need our calculators, so I will give you a chance to take a look and grab your calculators. Okay, yes, I'm right. This one is called a relative max. Just wanted to check that out for you. All right. Let's go to the next page. Okay, so critical points, see page 174. So let me pop out page 174 for you. Okay, this little table right here, it talks about our critical points. Try and hold it so you can see it, okay? Or you can open up your book. So, on this side, for it to be a maximum, on this side it would be going increasing, so numbers getting bigger and bigger, and then smaller and smaller. That would make a maximum. For a minimum, you would be getting smaller and smaller, and then getting bigger and bigger. These are talking about your Y values. A point of inflection, those ones are kind of weird, okay, because they technically continue from, we would be getting bigger and bigger constantly, but you would notice kind of like a leveling off point, okay, and then maybe at this point right here, at the point of inflection, you would have that. You should have a point there. Okay, we'll take a look at how that looks. And then the same with this one, constantly increasing. Right? Okay. So, it says the function f of x equals 2x to the fifth minus 5x to the fourth minus 10x cubed has critical points at these locations. X equals -1, x equals 0, x equals 3. Determine whether each is a maximum, minimum, or point of inflection. All right. So what I'm going to do is I am going to use my calculator, and I'm going to do some checking on both sides of my point to see what's going on there. Okay, so first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to plug in, I'm going to work on my orange chart first. What am I doing on my orange chart? I'm getting x values 0.1 smaller and 0.1 bigger, okay? You can use your calculator, or you don't have to. You probably already could figure those out off the top of your head. But I want to make sure that I am writing them down right. Okay. Plus 0.1 will be -0.9. Okay. So minus 0.1, 0.1, -3.1. Oh, no, that's a 3. Burp. So that'll be 2.9. See, already mixed up. 3.1. All right, so now what we're doing is we're going to take this column number here and this column's number over here, and we are going to plug them into our function. So we have a bunch of numbers we are going to plug into our function. Okay, so at this point you are going to want your calculator. All right. So maybe I'll just start off with my middle column and do those first. So I'm going to do 2 times, not x, because we're going to put in -1 for x, to the fifth, minus 5 times -1 to the fourth, minus 10 times -1 to the third. So let's check. 2, -1 to the fifth, minus 5, -1/4 minus 10. Okay, enter. The answer is 3. Okay, we're still just on this -1 column. All right, we're going to figure out what's going on at -1 first. So I'm going to second entry again. And now I'm going to put in a -1.1. And I'm going to see what's going on. Okay, that's good. Second insert. Whoop. All right. So I'm going to see what's going on there. So I got 2.76848. Okay. Now I'm going to plug in. I'm going to do second entry again, pull it up, and this time I'm going to plug in -0.9. .9. Okay, so that is 2.82852. Okay, sweet. We are done. I'm going to just move on to the next one now. All right. So same equation. Now this time, I'm going to plug in a 0. So I'm going to go 0, 0, 0. That answer is 0. Okay. I'm going to do a -0.1. So maybe I want this one. Remember, you can access different equations you've used by pushing second entry multiple times. So use the easiest one. So this is 0.00948. And I'm going to do now just 0.1. Whoop, 0.1. So -0.01048. Sweet. Okay, and then the last one, we're just ignoring. Whoop. Let me go back to the 0 one to plug in my 3. We're just ignoring the numbers. We're just going to get all of our answers, and then we'll analyze what we found. Whoops, how did I get in here? Okay. I want another one. Okay, this one will work. 2.9, 2.9. Okay, so this is a lot of just calculator work. Nice thing about calculator work is that it is just us inserting data. Okay. Okay, sweet. So now let's look at our numbers. So we have 2.7 to 3, so we're going positive. And then we go up, and then we go down. So we are doing something that goes up and then down. So what would that be? If we go up and down, that would be a max. Okay. So we are going to go some positive number to 0. So we're going down, and then we're going to negative. So we just keep going down. So we're going to have a point of inflection. And actually, I just called it P of inf. Okay. Now we have -87, -89, -87. So this is actually bigger. So -87 down to -89, back up to -87. Okay, that's going to be a min. Right. So that's how, without graphing, you could find what these are. Okay. All right. We could then check this on our calculator using a couple different methods. Method number 1. You could use a table of values. So I'm going to show you what to do with that. We're going to just follow these directions. So our directions say input equation into y equals. So we're going to click on y equals, clear out whatever's in there, and put our equation in. So it's 2x to the 5th minus 5x to the 4th minus 10x to the 3rd. Okay, then we're going to push second table set. It's down here below window. We are going to start our table. It doesn't matter. I'm just going to say 0, so we start in the middle. And we want our change of our table to be 0.1. Why? Because on our graphs we changed it by 0.1. So that's enough of a change that we should be able to see what's going on. Then we're going to push second table. It's under the graph, and it's going to show us a bunch of data. So what we can do is we can analyze our data in here. If we know where they're at, we can take a look and see how our changes are going. So we are going from a bigger number and getting smaller and smaller and smaller. And then we are continuing to get smaller. So we know a point of inflection is there because we are just getting smaller. Okay. So now we want to go to -1. So we could scroll to -1 and see what's going on there. Get another number. Okay, so we're getting bigger, 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 bigger. Oh, smaller, smaller, smaller. So we look, it's bigger, 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 smaller, smaller, smaller. Oh, that's a max. Okay, that's what we got here. And then we're going to go to 3. If you want to not scroll that whole way, you could go back here and say that you want to start your table at 3. Then it'll just move it right to where you want it. So especially if you have big numbers that are far apart from each other. So we're going to go, we're getting smaller, 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 and then we start getting bigger again. Okay, so something that gets smaller, smaller, and then bigger, bigger, so that's a min. Okay, and that's what we put here. All right, so that's one method. We can use a table on our calculator. Another method is we could graph it. We could graph it. Okay, you gotta make sure your table is gonna show it all. I didn't even pay attention to where it was. Okay, so down there, that one's way down there. So we could use the trace function to see what's going on. So that's up here. Okay, we could look at numbers on either side of it to see what's going on. We're going to have to change for that number down here. This point of inflection here at 0, we'd have to look when x gets 0. So we're at a 0.57. We get smaller, and we continue to get smaller. So we know that's a point of inflection. Or our last one is we can use our graph to find a maximum and a minimum. Okay, so we're going to go through how to do that. Input your graph into the y equals. We did that. Graph it. We've done that. Adjust our window. This goes way down, and right here we know that it goes to -189. So we can change our y min to -200, and that might need to instead go by 20s or something else. Okay. So if we push second calc, we can use minimum and maximum to see what's going on, to get our values if that's what we need to do. So if we want to find a minimum, we click on minimum. We have to scroll down so we are on the left side of our minimum. So is this the left side? Yes. Now it asks for the right side. Got to go to the right side? Yes. And it'll guess. And it should guess our minimum. Remember, calculators do lots of calculations, so this 2.99999 should be a 3, okay? So we can round to a 3, and that's fine because it's doing a lot of calculations. We can go to second calc, and we can look at a maximum. So the same thing, way up here, we just want to know that we're on the left side of our maximum, and we want to know that we moved over to the right side of our maximum. We're going to have it guess, and our maximum is at -1, 3. Okay, so we could figure out what those are. We can see them here. All right, hard thing when we're zoomed out this far, it's hard to see that point of inflection. All right, so homework, page 177, 13 to 35 odd, and 51. You cannot just go onto your calculator, okay? If it tells you that you need to find a table, you need to know how to use the table to find those points, because, for example, on your test, it could give you just a table and you need to figure it out on your own. It doesn't give you a function that you can just graph. So make sure that you know how to use the table and how to figure out what a max and a min is. Have a great day.